Tonight, Saskatoon gets a step closer to implementing its homelessness action plan. The smell of smoke forces a plane to make an emergency landing in Regina.
You kind of want to seem like you're a big, strong, tough guy, and it's not an easy thing to talk about.
And a new documentary shines a light on mental health in agriculture.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Wednesday, July 16th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. I'm Ethan Williams. Thank you for joining us. The City of Saskatoon's Homelessness Action Plan got a step closer Wednesday to becoming reality. It comes as the number of people experiencing homelessness in Saskatoon continues to rise. Jeremy Warren has the latest.
The City of Saskatoon's new strategy on homelessness has passed the first hurdle to becoming policy. On Wednesday, a council committee approved part of the city's Homelessness Action Plan. It's been touted as a top priority for Mayor Cynthia Block and City Council. Critics say the city hasn't moved fast enough to open up winter shelters or to encourage affordable housing development. Last year's point-in-time count found almost 1,500 people in the city experiencing homelessness.
This is the administration's perspective, and if council sees it differently, we're looking for that direction. Before we get too far along with the plan, we want to make sure this is an appropriate lane for the city.
The plan, drafted by city staff, proposes a handful of new ways to help unhoused people. Those include making an inventory of vacant and derelict properties and then offering incentives to develop them, working with developers to convert underused commercial properties into affordable housing, and giving incentives to property owners to repair and renovate existing units. The city wants to lead these initiatives but needs council's approval to go ahead. The report doesn't say how much any of this would cost. That comes later, depending on what council passes. The finalized action plan could be ready by September, and council would then put it to a final vote. Jeremy Warren, CBC News, Saskatoon.
A growing wildfire near Waskesiu has crews on high alert, but Parks Canada says there's still no immediate risk to the town site. The Bule fire has now burned tens of thousands of hectares in Prince Albert National Park and surrounding land. The fire has grown a bit larger, but it has not moved closer to Waskesiu, and changing winds and cooler conditions are helping ground crews and water tankers make progress.
It is now at 38,000 hectares. With about 7,000 hectares within the park. And it's at 31 kilometers from the community and town site of Waskesiu. So it does not pose a threat in the immediate sense.
A fire ban remains in effect for the entire national park, and closures also remain in effect for northern areas of the park. Officials say they've set a clear threshold for when an evacuation will happen if the fire moves closer. Walker says conditions are being monitored hourly, and updates are available through Parks Canada and Sask Alert. Passengers and crew aboard an airplane made an unexpected stop in Regina Tuesday evening. A Porter Airlines flight with 90 people aboard made an emergency landing at Regina International Airport around 8:30 Tuesday. It had been traveling from Hamilton to Vancouver, and it was over Montana when smoke began to be smelled in the aircraft cabin. No smoke could actually be seen, but as a precaution, the plane's pilots decided to land in Regina.
We had one passenger at back, and he said he's feeling some kind of a burning smell. And the cabin crew also checked everything, checked all bags if in case there is any electronic device over there, but they couldn't find anything.
So we stood up what's called our Emergency Operations Center, which means our supporting center to help in case something was to escalate. But thankfully it didn't. Thankfully the plane landed safely. The passengers again got off the aircraft. They had to stay overnight here in Regina.
Porter Airlines sent a separate aircraft to pick up stranded passengers. It left Regina around 3:15 Wednesday afternoon to complete the trip to Vancouver. The airline has not yet confirmed what caused the smell of smoke or how long the problem aircraft will be out of commission for. The provincial government says it has a plan to make Canada a major player on the international energy stage. but it needs Ottawa's help to make it happen. It's all part of the province's continued calls to the feds to get major projects moving faster. Alexander Kwan has more.
I'm here outside of the Mosaic Belle Plaine potash mine. It's an example of why Saskatchewan is the world's largest potash producer. And it's also a reason why Saskatchewan believes it can make Canada an energy and mining superpower.
The message is simple. We're ready.
The province's energy and mining minister says Saskatchewan is projected to draw more than $7 billion in mining investment in 2025, the highest amount in the country. But things could be better.
I think we need to partner with the federal government to ensure that they aren't being held up at the second level when they get to that licensing portion under the federal government. We've already had applications in that have been sitting on the books for the last 10 years and just need to be approved to get them moving forward.
On Wednesday, the province repeated its call for the federal government to streamline approval for large resource projects in order for industries like mining to build faster. It also wants a national energy corridor, more railways, and an east-west pipeline. Both are something supported by the mining industry.
We need more rail capacity. If we can get oil onto pipelines, that'll free up some capacity there. But we also have to address some of labor disruptions that we have.
Young says the province wants to seize the significant opportunity in front of it, but it needs Ottawa to get out of its way to do it. The House of Commons has passed Bill C-5, which enables Cabinet to approve projects they feel are in the national interest, overriding federal laws, environmental reviews, and the permitting process. It's not yet known how that will impact the province's mining industry. Alexander Kwan, CBC News, near Belle Plaine.
And Prime Minister Mark Carney visited Hamilton Wednesday to announce support for Canada's steel industry. Donald Trump has imposed high tariffs on Canadian steel, causing production to crumble here. Carney says Canada has become too dependent on the U.S., with 90% of steel exports going south of the border.
Moving forward, we must diversify our trade relationships. And above all, we must rely more on Canadian steel for Canadian projects. And those shifts start today.
Carney did not announce new tariffs on U.S. steel. Those negotiations are ongoing, but he is making it more difficult for other countries with and without trade agreements to send steel to Canada. He says the goal is to ensure Canadian producers have a bigger share of the domestic market. Carney also announced $70 million for training and income support for steel workers and $1 billion to help steel companies advance their projects. A Saskatoon family is still puzzling over a bizarre encounter with an intruder over the weekend. It all started when they were settling down for the night on Saturday and heard some strange noises. Dan Zakreski has that story.
And then we heard out of nowhere, bonk, 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 bonk. Someone had leapt onto our roof.
And then from onto the roof, into the roof.
And then crack, crunch, and then you could just hear crunch, like walking on leaves, plastic-covered leaves. He was in our ceiling, crawling across our insulation. And you could hear him, just track him as easy as anything through the house.
The Hardy family's guy in the attic misadventure had actually started earlier Saturday night. Karen was upstairs with their daughter, and Matthew was with their son.
I had just come down from putting my son to bed, and I heard someone violently trying to open one of our glass doors there on our deck door. And I looked over, and sure enough, there was a man reefing, pulling hard on our deck door.
Hardy says he spoke to the man, who was covered with dirt and leaves. The man said he was being chased and wanted into the house. Hardy said no way that was going to happen. By then, Karen had called the police. The man took off before officers arrived. The couple was too rattled to sleep, so they started watching a movie. That's when they heard the guy bust a hole in their roof. They called 911, and the cops were back in a flash. They came with the tactical unit and a drone.
They called in a couple gentlemen who had a flying drone, and they put a drone up there. And sure enough, they found him buried in insulation, hiding in insulation up there. And
they put a drone
into our ceiling and flew it around.
And
Police dragged the man out through the attic hatch in a bedroom closet. A 33-year-old man is now charged with break and enter. Matthew and Karen say it's one of those tales that will be enshrined in family lore.
It's a crazy story of someone jumping onto your roof and stomping a hole through your roof to get into your house to rest in your insulation.
Dan Zakreski, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Well, the race is on toward the weekend, but these guys at Regina's 13th Avenue BMX track are not waiting for the weekend to hit the trails with their bikes. Of course, it helps that they're not in school right now. It was a nice Wednesday, though, for some outdoor pursuits. And Riley Lachuk will be by after the break to tell us if that's a pattern that is going to continue. Stay with us. Nine First Nations in Ontario are seeking an injunction against a pair of federal and provincial bills meant to fast-track infrastructure projects. Indigenous leaders say the bills are unconstitutional. Michelle Allen has more.
When the water's gone and when everything's poisoned, what are we going to have?
June Black says these bills put their lands and lives at risk. She's one of 4 chiefs who traveled from all ends of the province to the Ontario legislature today. They came to announce that they've filed an injunction application against Ontario's Bill 5 and Ottawa's Bill C5. Both are now law. They're meant to fast-track big projects such as mines, ports, and pipelines by sidestepping existing laws. In Ontario, this could mean opening up the Ring of Fire mineral deposit for easier development. The governments say they need these new laws to speed up development and counteract the effects of Trump's tariffs. Bill 5! The laws have been criticized by First Nations and environmental groups. They say it gives the governments absolute power to bypass laws meant to protect the environment and regulatory processes and skip consultations with First Nations.
The bill and the law, as it now is enabling legislation. The first thing it enables is consultations.
The province says, we have begun productive conversations with First Nations who share our vision of unlocking economic opportunity and critical infrastructure in their community. But the chiefs are skeptical.
We are interested in development that is done the right way. The right way means protecting and conserving the environment, lands, waters, and species. The right way also means full participation in decision-making of First Nations.
The chiefs say their goal is to stop this bill at any cost. And if their request for an injunction isn't successful, they say they'll find other ways to fight back outside the courtroom. Michelle Allen, CBC News, Toronto.
Alberta Premier Danielle Smith says it could be time for premiers to once again discuss reopening the Constitution. Smith made the suggestion Tuesday in Red Deer at a town hall meeting. The Premier and a panel of appointees heard ideas, questions, and comments from the audience about Alberta's plan to push back against the federal government. Smith has said she believes in a sovereign Alberta within a united Canada, and the panel is meant to address separatist concerns within the province. Well, a sunnier day for many of us across the province, especially in the southern half, albeit smoky at times. We can see that haze in Saskatoon as well. Weather specialist Riley Lachuk is here to let us know what's going to play out weather-wise for us. Hi, Riley.
Well, Ethan, I thought we'd start big picture tonight because there's a lot happening above us in terms of weather, mainly because of this area of low pressure that's kind of parked itself over Hudson Bay. This is responsible for bringing down a lot of cool Arctic air across the prairie provinces, and this is what's led to temperatures that are 5-6+ degrees below seasonal for this time of the year. There's a bit of a warm-up coming for some of us as we get through the next couple of days, but we are looking at this trend continuing as we get through even into the weekend for many of us really across the province. So that combined with a low jet stream, there's this trough in the jet stream here. That's what's led to some of those cooler temperatures across the province. 21 in Regina, Saskatoon, temperatures really hovering around 20 degrees. Normally for this time of the year, we should be around 25 or 26 for this time of the year. So that gives you a sense at how far off the mark we are at the moment. Air quality statements, air quality warnings still in place. Saskatoon under the statement, and of course northern sections under more of a warning. That's because at the surface we have an area of high pressure that's moved across the central part of the province, and that has shifted our winds to more of a southerly flow, and that's pushing some of that smoke from those wildfires a little bit further to the north. Not to say that it hasn't been hazy at times for places like Prince Albert and Saskatoon throughout the day today, but we've gotten a little bit of a relief for parts of the province, mainly the western edge, as the winds shift direction. So that high pushes off as we get into the day on Thursday. In behind that, a little bit of cloud cover. This ahead of our next weather maker here. This not packing much of a punch, unfortunately. We'll look at some of the long-range models in just a moment, but as we get into the overnight period Thursday into Friday, there's a chance that we could see a few showers in places like Swift Current. Very slight chance some of that gets into Regina. This mainly is just giving us cloud cover, though, as we get into the morning hours on Friday. Then we get a bit of clearing as we head Friday into Saturday, ahead of maybe another shot of rain as we get later into the weekend and into early next week. So I'm going to show you the long-range models here. Take these with a grain of salt, because the further out you go, the less accurate this modeling gets until we get a little bit closer to it. So this particular forecast modeling suggesting we'll get some showers across central parts of the province as we head through Sunday into Monday. Unfortunately, the areas that need it the most not really getting all that much moisture, but we'll take what we can get as we get into next week. So that just gives you a sense at where we're headed. Behind this area of high pressure, a change in winds again, and this will push a little bit more haze as we get into the day on Friday for places like Saskatoon and even into the Parkline. A quick look at your temperatures. This is a snapshot into the afternoon area, into the afternoon hours as we get through Thursday. 22 in Saskatoon. Temperatures for the most part hovering around 21 degrees, Ethan, and even a couple of 23s and 24s on the board through the day.
All right. Thank you very much, Riley. Well, a new documentary is putting a focus on the mental health of agricultural producers right across this country. Deep Rooted explores the sometimes challenging environment those in the ag industry find themselves in when it comes to talking about things like anxiety, depression, and suicide. A rancher from Saskatchewan is among those who shared his story.
It was kind of something I'd been dealing with for a couple years, and then there's just maybe the extra weight of everything I had going on. You know, there's a big learning curve, and I didn't feel like there was a lot of people I could just call up and ask questions of. And I just felt like a lot of stress and weight on my shoulders. I was definitely very suicidal at that point. I just didn't know. I just felt really helpless. Not that I didn't have support, I just wasn't really reaching out to anybody. I was just kind of keeping it inside and not wanting to, I guess, let people know the full extent. I also didn't want to seem weak, and I think that just comes from, growing up in a small town and on a reserve and in a farming community. It's you kind of want to seem like you're a big, strong, tough guy, and it's not an easy thing to talk about. When you're feeling, I guess, down and out, you kind of just want to lay around and not really do anything. Just, maybe lay on your phone in your bed and cows still need to get fed and stuff still needs to happen. All those lives are relying on you. And there's only so many things you can control. Even when you feel like you're doing everything right, all it takes is, you're one bad storm away or no rain for a few months, and it totally changes the outlook on your business. My hope was that if anybody else was kind of going through the same thing that I was going through, then maybe I could give them some assistance or any type of help, anything that they could do to help their situation. I'm all for it, because I know the way I was feeling, and it wasn't too good.
And there is mental health support available for anyone who needs it. You can call or text the National Suicide Crisis Helpline. That number is there now, 988, and it is available in English or French, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Well, there is a new public art installation catching the attention of walkers and cyclists in Fredericton. 30 hand-carved monarch butterflies now flutter above the Bill Thorpe Walking Bridge, which spans the St. John River. It is the work of artist and military veteran Gary Crosby. He hopes the display will get people curious about monarchs and motivated to help protect them. Stay with us. We have more news and a final look at the forecast after the break. Welcome back. Wildfire smoke can be harmful to humans, but it can also be harmful to animals, especially those that can't go inside. One researcher at the University of Saskatchewan is starting to look into that topic. Catherine Ivey is specifically exploring the way smoke inhalation can affect migratory and non-migratory birds.
We know what Health Canada tells us to do, which is stay inside, only breathe like clean air. But these animals live outside all year round, so unfortunately we have this gap in our knowledge, and we know how wildfires impact wildlife, but we don't know how the smoke impacts wildlife.
Ivey says it is impossible to stop wildfires altogether, but research may allow people to mitigate or reduce the size of smoke events and wildfires in general.
All right, well, the theme for the next 7 days, really for much of the province, is temperatures remaining below seasonal. Unless you're in the far north, then temperatures actually a little bit closer to seasonal as we get through your extended forecast. So looking at Regina, 22 degrees on the way for Thursday. We'll get into a mainly sunny sky by the time we get to the afternoon. A bit more sunshine into Friday at 24 degrees. And then we've got a little bit of cloud cover that will come in as we get into the day on Saturday. That's along that next system that brings us the slightest chance of a shower overnight Friday into Saturday for Regina. Chance of showers into Sunday, and temperatures remaining below seasonal even right into the middle of next week at 19 degrees on Wednesday. Saskatoon, a better chance of seeing some showers as we get through the weekend. 23 for Thursday, 25, maybe a bit hazy once again as we get into the day on Friday. 23 for Saturday, and there comes a risk of thunderstorms as we get into Sunday. Not all day, but could see some showers into the morning hours. Another chance of showers comes our way into Tuesday, Ethan, before we get into a little bit more sunshine into Wednesday.
All right, thank you, Riley. And before we leave you, organizers of the 2026 Winter Olympics unveiled the gold, silver, and bronze medals Tuesday at a ceremony in Venice. Each of the medals features the traditional Olympic 5-ring symbol on one side with a unique design that combines two halves. The company behind the medals say the two halves are meant to represent an athlete's Olympic journey and those who supported them along the way. The other side of each medal features an inscription recognizing the sporting event and the venue. The 2026 Olympics will take place next February in the northern Italian cities of Milan and Cortina. And that is it for us. For more news anytime, you can always head to cbc.ca/Sask or subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel. And of course, you can always also download the CBC News app on your smartphone or tablet. Thanks so much for watching.